Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. I'm Rick Plaskett, a certified business and leadership coach here in Columbus, Ohio. And today my guest is Jenny Saunders. She is the chairman of the board of FC Bank. And today we're going to talk to her about the business challenges that she sees, some of her best practices, and share a peek into what it's really like to operate a business, a banking business that works with other businesses as well. If this is your first time on the channel, please be sure to like and subscribe so you get notifications in the future. And Jenny, welcome and thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you so much, Rick. I'm so excited to be here and I can't wait for our conversation. I think it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I think it will. For the audience, would you do us a favor? Because I know you and I have talked in the past and I want to bring them up to speed. Can you give us a brief overview of your background and tell us a little bit about the bank and some of the things that make you and the bank unique?
Sure. I have been in banking for over 40 years now, which is just crazy to me, right? So I clearly started when I was 8, but have done just about every position you could imagine that a bank would have. I started out as a part-time teller when I was going to Ohio State to get my degree. Something a little interesting about me is I have a degree in political science, which is not your typical degree for a bank president, but I was going to be an attorney. And when I started working for a bank, a community bank here in Columbus, Ohio, I fell in love with banking. And so that's where I landed. I have worked for small and large banks and have done everything from a branch manager to branch administration to business banking to commercial banking. And here I am today as a divisional bank president of a community bank. What makes FC Bank so unique in my mind is we are a commercial first bank, which is very unusual for community banking. So FC Bank is a division of CMB, which is located out of Pennsylvania. So think of it a little bit as CMB doing business as FC Bank. We have 6 other, soon to be 7 divisions, each with their own president, their own balance sheet, their own profit and loss, their own budget. Um, so all the decisions are made locally, which is really cool. But CMB, which has been around for 160 years, started out as a commercial bank. So most community banks start out in consumer and then dip their toe into commercial real estate and then move into the commercial, really into the commercial all in. We did the opposite. We started with commercial and then picked up the consumer side to be able to meet the needs of our business clients. And so that makes us unique in the fact that we have a really sophisticated suite of solutions for our business customers that not every community bank might have, given what our roots are. The other thing that's really unique about us is because we're part of a larger holding company, we are very large, soon to be $8.5 billion. And because of that, that allows us to do lending projects very large and very small. So we have a pretty high legal lending limit that allows us to play in all kinds of spaces. So, but our focus continues to be community. Everything we do, relationships are centric to that. And I think that makes us a really cool option for folks if they're looking for something a little different in their banking experience.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Jenny. Could you tell us a little bit about what your current role is in the bank?
Sure. So I am the president of CMB, or I'm sorry, FC Bank, which allows me to be able to lead the team here. So I have commercial bankers, private banking, wealth, treasury management, the branches, all of that flows up to me either through a dotted or solid line. So essentially, I'm responsible for ensuring that we take care of our clients, that we grow revenue, that we expand our footprint, that we ensure we're meeting the needs of our communities. When they say the buck stops here, it stops here with me. I'm responsible for all of that.
That's awesome. So let's take that a little further on a daily or weekly basis. What's the percentage of time that you would say you invest in the banking operations versus the vision, the strategy, the planning of working on the business for the future? How would you break that down?
I would say 90 to 95% of my time is on strategic and vision and business development and face of bank. I have an amazing team, an amazing leadership team that I rely on very much so to handle the operational side. So I might get pulled into things if it needs my expertise to it. But honestly, or if somebody wants to bounce an idea off of me, now I'll take a look at loans, some of that as well, if somebody wants to talk about a rate or structure.
Mhm.
But really, for the most part, I'm out there driving strategic vision, ensuring my team has everything they need to be successful, and then doing everything I can to ensure that the communities that we operate in are successful and that they thrive, either through networking with other banks or other community partners as well to help with that larger global community focus, or working with my peers across the state to ensure that we're doing different things to make sure that the banking industry continues. And then working with my peers internally across all of our divisions to ensure that we're delivering the strategic objectives of our holding company and growing the bank in the way we need to do as well.
Super, super. So I want to dig into that a little bit because I think you've got a very unique position to be able to at least share your viewpoint. And I recognize I'm about to ask you a question that you may not be able to answer in your role as the president of the bank. But I think that you have enough connections within the market in total. Is what do you see in the way of your vision? Where is the banking industry going, say for the second half of 2025 or even into 2026?
So that's a really interesting question because right now we're in very unique times given what is happening in the world, our country, and in the economy, right? So we are looking at a pivotal point, I think, for the banking industry. We've been, banking is very regulated, which everyone would like us to be. I mean, you don't want anybody out there doing crazy things. Think airlines as well, right? We're very heavily regulated. And sometimes, often, we become the political football, per se, as different administrations come in and out. So right now, with the current administration, there is a lot of conversation around regulatory reform. There's a lot of conversation, as we know, about the Federal Reserve. I was just listening to something today about, is Powell in, is he out, are interest rates going down, are they staying the same? We have everything that's happening with the tariffs. I always call it tariff fatigue, honestly, because they're on, are they off, are they on? You never really know. But all of that impacts our industry, it impacts our clients, it impacts our communities. And so trying to navigate all of that and be able to lead the bank in the way we need to, but even more importantly, be able to um, counsel our clients and what they should be doing and how should they manage that and how should they handle that. We're very consultative. And so trying to navigate all of that together so that we can have the best outcome for everybody involved. I don't know that I answered your
Super.
question. I was very
Oh,
vague.
no, it was not. It actually, you brought up the key point, which is economic uncertainty. And I guess my follow-up question to that would be, with all of that uncertainty, is that an impact on you and your commercial customers in a sense of a degree or magnitude? Or could you and the bank and potentially commercial businesses be looking at a complete change somewhere in the next 3 to 5 years? And again, I'm asking your opinion,
Right.
but what do you see?
I think banking has been around for forever and it will continue to be around forever, right? And the interesting thing I think you probably remember, as do I don't know if your listeners all will remember, but branches were going to go away, right? Like that was the big thing 15 years ago. I remember there was a local bank here who actually closed a branch and just made it all ATMs, right? And then reopened it as a branch a couple years later because that didn't work. So I think, if you use your magic 8 ball and shake it, it's going to be, stay steady, right? And so I think the thing about banking industry as a whole and our commercial customers is resiliency, right? And being able to adjust with whatever kind of gets your way. And I think, the pandemic is a perfect example of that. If you think about what happened during the pandemic, and, many businesses had to close for a period of time. There was all sorts of stimulus out there. We were flying the plane while we were building it from a PPP perspective and being able to deliver what the government wanted. I mean, there was all of that happening in the midst of all of that anxiety, of a global pandemic. And for the most part, we came through it okay, right? And so, I mean, so I think, whatever comes our way, we'll adjust to it. And I think another perfect example of that is when interest rates rose so highly, right? That had a very negative impact on a lot of businesses. And, so now we're, potentially coming back down off of that with interest rates decreasing perhaps. And so you just have to adjust. You have to be really in tune with what your business cycle is and what it needs. We always try to tell folks not to over leverage, watch the size of growth because you don't always know what's coming down the pike. And so, you contingency plan as best as you can. I'm in the business of risk. So I'm always contingency planning, right? If this, what, then this. If this, what, this. And we do that with our clients, right? When you underwrite a loan, when you make a proposal for anything, it's all, what type of business are they in? How can the current dynamics of the economy impact them? Is tariffs going to impact them? Those are all things that not only are we looking at as a banking industry, but our customers are looking at too as they try to navigate their business.
Awesome. As you were sharing that, Jenny, it reminded me, and I'm very interested to hear your personal view. The topic is goal setting, and I'll share a little bit with you and the audience as well. If you've watched any of my videos, I'm a graduate of West Point, and I served as a leader in the Army for over 14 years. And in that time, we breathed in, there's no substitute for victory, mission first. And so as I left the military and my personal coach started talking about goal setting, well, I knew I could do two. So my goal was two because there was no substitute for victory. Okay. And it took a long time for her to change my mindset on goal setting. And her approach, and it's something that I use as a mantra today. If I know everything I need to do to hit that goal, it's not a good goal, it's a to-do. Put it on my to-do list and just plan to get it done. She said a good goal is something that will require me to grow, something that I need to learn, or there's a gap someplace that I just don't know yet on how to hit that. She said, That's a good goal. Since then, my goal planning has completely changed. If I know I can do two, my goal is six. If I hit four, it's a whole lot better than two, even though I didn't hit six. But I'm curious, in your banking industry, with all of the regulations that you have to follow, Jenny, what's your personal definition and approach to goal setting?
So that's a really interesting question, and I like the way you framed it with if you know every part of it, it's really more of a task, not a goal. So to me, then, if you're defining it from that perspective, goals are, you're looking for strategic goals, for goals that are going to move your vision forward, right? So if I have a goal or if I have a desire to get something from point A to point B. And I don't really know, all the ins and outs of it. That's going to be my strategic goal, right? And so I think back to when I first took this position, uh, we were number 12 in the market share for deposits in Worthington, which is where we're headquartered. And we were really, as a division, kind of just throwing everything up against the wall to see what would stick, right? And Columbus is huge. We have currently 3 local branches in Columbus, Ohio, and we have a lot of competition, right? So how do you make an impact, get through all the noise per se, to be able to have people know who you are and be able to choose to bank with you, right? So, we approached that a couple of different ways, but our goal was to get our market share increased, right? That was the ultimate goal. Then you had all these different little pieces, little smaller goals underneath that to get you to the ultimate place you wanted to be. And how we got there is probably more time than we have to talk today, but I'm really pleased and proud that, it took us 4 years. So it was a long-term goal, but 4 years we went from 12 to where we sit now, which is third in market share. And we're behind Huntington and Chase, which are big behemoth, organizations, large commercial banks who, Huntington is headquartered here and Chase was headquartered here with Bank One. And so, you know, that's a perfect example in my mind of how, we took our vision and then made goals to do it and we chunked it out. Because if my goal is to get from here to here, that's great. But how am I going to do that? And it can become overwhelming if you're just focusing on that end result, without understanding what those steps are in between, those benchmarks per se, to get you to your ultimate destination.
And that's awesome. Thank you. And that actually brought up, I want to build on that a little bit. You brought us from where you were at 12 to where you are now at third. If we're thinking of the future of business, commercial businesses in banking, it's kind of important to include a concept of building a great team. You're not doing that alone. You've got a team around you. I'd like to just, I'm curious a little bit on how would you describe your leadership style and has it changed over the years?
So it's absolutely changed over the years because experience gets you, you make mistakes along the way, right? No leader does not make mistakes along the way. And I have worked for really great leaders and I've worked for some that were not so good, right? And you take what you want, your learnings from both of those. I laugh because I have an employee, somebody on my leadership team. He runs a line of business for me who used to work for me at another institution about 10, 12 years ago. And he always tells the other members of my leadership team, wow, Jenny's really changed from when she was, 10 years ago. I would say I'm a softer version perhaps of where I was before. I'm still pretty direct, but I think uh, I'm more forgiving, I would say, a little bit when things don't necessarily go right or, mistakes are made. Not that I wasn't before, but I think I was a little more black and white and not so much gray as I am now, right? But I am very direct. I'm very goal oriented. I love to celebrate success. I'm very relationship uh, from that perspective. So I go around in our headquarters building here every day and I try to say hello to everyone. What's happening, what's going on. If your team feels that you care about them, then they're going to go to the wall for you and beyond. And so, I try to ensure that people have development plans and that, I understand where it is that they're trying to get next. Sometimes they're not trying to get anywhere. This is their job and they just want to, and that's okay. But what other things would be rewarding or satisfying to them? We have a very strong community component here, given that we're a community bank. So the expectation is everybody participates and everybody volunteers. And so, I try very hard to make sure I match that up with what's important to that person. It won't necessarily be something that the bank is sponsoring, but perhaps there's, something else that's very important to that employee that they want to volunteer for. So, I think just really, listening to your team and then letting them go. Let them go and do what they need to do. I'm a little bit of a control freak. That's a little bit of a type A personality, probably not surprising given what my job is. Um, and so as I have matured in my leadership style, um, letting go of more things, giving people permission to make mistakes, staying in touch. I have one-on-ones, but it's really their one-on-one. What do you want to talk about? What
Mhm.
challenges do you have? Not me dictating to them like this needs to be done, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. And so I'm very blessed that I have a fabulous leadership team that allows me to only potentially do 5% operations and more of the strategic stuff, which is really what my job is about.
That's awesome. Awesome. Now, there's a piece that you didn't mention directly, and I know it's got to be part of what you do, and it's got to be part of your heart as well. And that is, as your position as the president, developing the under leaders and potentially developing your replacement. In other words, your role as a mentor in chief. Could you
Yeah.
elaborate on a little bit of, share it with us at least a little of that topic?
Sure. So I think one of the most important things that you can always do is plan for your replacement. I mean, the reality of it is that you're not going to, you're not going to always be around. And so I work hard with my leadership team to give them different projects, different things, sit in on meetings. If I have something that is due to the board or to my boss, then, let's have somebody else work on it. And then I'll, kind of come in at the end or say, maybe we should look at it this way. I have board presentations that my entire leadership team is involved with that work on that. And I think it's not just internally. It's really important as a leader, to understand your sphere of influence and be able to contribute and help others across all sorts of spheres. And so, there are not many women in the C-suite of community banks. We're very fortunate here in Central Ohio because we have lots of regional presidents in large banks. And, I think of Francie Henry at Fifth Third and, other key large institutions. We have a lot of women in leadership positions there, which is great. But if you look at community banking, there's not very many women in the C-suite. And so I didn't really realize the significance of that when I took this job. And I've never really identified by my gender or my title. I'm always kind of like, I'm Jenny, right? Like, that's who I am. I try to be my most authentic self. But when I took this job, I'm the first female divisional president in our company. And we now have two more and a regional president who is female. So we're just fabulous work being done here. Our CEO of the holding company, Mike Baduzzi, is amazing in his vision around that. But when I first started at the bank, I had employee after employee come up to me and say, we're so excited you're here. And if you can be a bank president, then I can be a bank president. And I started to really realize the responsibility that I had and that, my responsibility is not just to ensure that people on my team, and especially females in this particular example, not only have the opportunities that I have today, but that their opportunities far exceed the ones that I have, that I can help lift them to the next. And I think that's true, for anyone on my team. I think that's true for all the women at our bank. I think that's true outside of our organization. I've really tried to differentiate. Remember how I talked about all the noise earlier, right? When you have so much competition, two things. We focused on two things. One, we focused on how could we be the best community bank that Worthington has ever seen. And, my kids go to school here, so I knew to focus on the schools and the library and the different organizations. And that's what we did. I mean, we went out there in force. I met with everybody we could. We volunteered, we sponsored, we, gave both our time and our treasure. We wore matching shirts so people knew we were there, right? We did all of that. And then the other thing that I did was I really focused not just in Worthington, but beyond in Columbus about the fact that I was a female president of a community bank and got ourselves, very involved in different organizations like WELD and NABO and the Women's Small Business Accelerator and different things like that. At that time, there weren't really women out there kind of doing that from a banking perspective. Now you fast forward and it's amazing. Our own company has a female focused bank called Impressia. We have Fortuna here in Columbus now. So we have, and I didn't create all of that, but as you start bringing awareness to that and you start lifting other women up even outside your organization and mentoring, that helps the whole. So, that's a long-winded answer to say that, mentoring is really important. We're heading to the Women of Influence Awards tomorrow from Columbus Business First. We're the
Awesome.
sponsor there. And one of the things I'm going to talk about is that not every woman had a mentor, right? In their past. I didn't. I had to forge my own path. And and I think that as you come across women of my age, experience, a lot of us didn't have mentors, in our given industries. We were, especially male dominated industries, we were kind of had to forge your own path and fight through it. Now we have the opportunity to give back and to help so that other individuals don't have that experience, right? And that they can be much further along than we are. So it's really important to me, whether it's internally or externally, whether you're talking community, whether you're talking women, whether you're talking lifting people up just within your organization, all it's how I give back in any case.
You know, Jenny, your personal story that you just shared with the audience here is a living embodiment of the spirit of the book, The Butterfly Effect. And if you haven't
Yep.
heard of that or seen it, I highly encourage you to take a look at it. That's exactly it. A butterfly flaps its wings in one area and it has a complete impact on the entire world. And I think you just shared that with us.
Oh,
And I thank you for
thanks.
that. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, listen, we have certainly covered a lot of ground in our conversation today. And for those of you that are watching, I highly encourage you to save this. Go back to it a few times and re-listen, re-watch it again, because Jenny sure has given us a lot of great nuggets about the vision, the leadership, and where the business and the banking industry is headed. As we wrap this up, I'd like to hit a little section here. It's rapid fire questions. Just want to ask you a couple of quick questions, and your answer is only what's top of your mind. One or two word answers. You ready? You all fired up?
Sure.
You get your running shoes on for this? No, it's a
Sure.
fun part.
Okay.
Jenny, what do you consider your key to success?
Oh, one or two words. My first thing that came in was my faith. So, I mean how's that? My faith.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. I know I stumped you because you wanted to give me a full chapter on that. It's
I'm
okay.
very wordy.
And this is not to contain you, okay? What would you give, what's one piece of advice that you would give to other women, other business owners, other bankers?
Would say understand your true self and ensure that you're being true to yourself and that you're being authentic.
Words of wisdom, absolutely. What's a book that you're reading now or that you've read recently that you would recommend to others?
Oh, I'm really focused onto retirement right now. So I'm reading a book about retirement, which is probably not what you're looking for. I am also reading a lot of fiction right now. So probably not giving you a good example on that one of a business book or a leadership book. I would encourage people though to read nonstop. My husband makes fun of me because we literally have bookshelves full of books. And we have leadership books that he uses too. We have fiction books, nonfiction books, you name it. Read constantly and never stop learning.
Awesome. That's great advice. If there was one area that you could choose in your banking business that you could immediately improve, and tomorrow morning it would be exactly what you want, what would that one area be?
It'd be interest rates. So I'm really interested to see what the Fed does. And that, that interest rates settle down one way or the other, whichever way it goes, so that we can have some stability in our economy for both us as a bank to be able to plan and move forward and for our customers.
Before we get into the final question of the day, what I'd like to do is if there is somebody watching this video and they want to get in touch with you or they want to be your next best customer for FC Bank, Jenny, what's the best way for them to contact you?
So the best way to reach out to me is via email, and I can be reached at Jenny, Jenny dot Saunders, Saunders at fcbank.bank. So bank is a little different. It's not .com, it's .bank. I'm also out on LinkedIn, so anyone is more than welcome to look me up on LinkedIn and connect with me that way as well.
Super. Thank you so much. All right, here's the last question, and I promise you can spend maybe 3 or 4 words on this one.
Okay.
Jenny, what do you find most inspiring to you?
What I find most inspiring to me is the people in our community, on my team, my family. I look at what my children do. I pull inspiration from other people. Where I get my energy from is being with people every day. If I'm starting to feel a little down or needing a little something, I just need to either go out and be with my team, go out and be with the community, be with my family. We've so The human race is amazing. And it's just, we're meant to connect with people and to form relationships. And that's what gives me inspiration every single day.
Awesome. Awesome. Jenny, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your journey. And to the audience, thank you so much for watching. We are absolutely inspired by Jenny today, as well as many of the other interviews. So folks, get on out there and make it a great day, and bye for now.
Take care, everyone.